So it's really a wonderful pleasure for me to be here with you this morning. And Pat, thank you so much for this conference, setting it up and all the hard work that you do. So what I want to do is go ahead and just give a few charts, a little bit of background about this region, which I think will give a good flavor for some of the vision of where Spaceport America is going and where we're going to head and support the industry. And then I'll end up with a couple kind of exciting videos from my perspective, and I think you'll enjoy them too. I think I'm one of the luckiest guys in the world. I really believe that. I had 34 years at White Sands Missile Range, supporting our nation's military, and then retired last November. Now I'm here working with for the last 11 months with the commercial space industry, the civil and national defense space industry. It's an exciting time that we live in, and I think you'll see that in some of these charts coming in. But I want to start off with a few background charts about the region. It kind of frames my perspective, and we're all kind of products of our environment, our career paths as we've grown up. And these next couple charts, we can hit the, I've got the clicker right here. There's over the last couple years at White Sands Missile Range, there's two significant activities that I was fortunate enough to lead. And the first one is the Joint Land Use Study. It's out of Office of Economic Adjustment, out of the Department of Defense. And what these studies do, they do it around the country, but this is the largest one the Department of Defense ever undertook. It was 6 counties, 2 states, a number of the cities that surround us. And you can see in that graphic there, White Sands Missile Range, Holloman, Spaceport America, Fort Bliss, we all work together to look at various factors in the region and the economies in the region and what the counties and the cities and the state wanted to do in this particular place in the country. And so this is an important effort that we undertook. It was a 2-year study that took 4 years, but it was an exciting thing. I was a technical chair on this study, but it's a neat activity because what we did is we really worked close with the attributes, the land attributes in the region, where we're located, why it makes sense to do certain things with certain cities, and what we have in this region that we can offer. So this was one of the most exciting things I did in my career. I got to learn the counties and the city, state officials that surround the military installations, and it gave us a good connection of, as we work together on this joint land use study, how we're going to go over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So we came up with about 220 tasks that are being implemented today with guys like, I think I saw Dan Hortet from Doñana County, and this study was actually started with great help of Senator Heinrich's staff. Dara Parker, I think, is out in the audience too. But this is a great study, but it gives us a good perspective of this landmass in the southwest part of the United States, and as we go forward, what we're going to do. The second significant thing that we did, that I did in my career, was I finished I had about 14 months, and I led a team of about 18 engineers and scientists, and we looked at what White Sands Missile Range wants to be when it grows up in 2046, knowing that things are going to happen and this strategic plan is going to change, but we put roadmaps in place where we can go with this region. And we looked at everything from communication theories, quantum entanglement, to directed energy concepts, to looking at space applications, and we looked at hypersonic corridors where we're going to be able to support our nation's very fast movers, both at low and high altitudes, and a lot of the space applications we looked at too. And we looked at things like the launch corridors that we had from Green River, from Fort Wingate, and as we dropped booster zones from the northwest part of the state in this national forest, how we work that to meet our nation's military needs, but also some of the space applications that are coming. So those two events at the end of my career, I think, put me in a good position as I go forward now to take on the Spaceport America, and what we're doing. And this chart is kind of a nice chart that shows, I think someone asked a question yesterday about how many licensed spaceports do we have today in our country. There's 10 licensed FAA spaceports that you can see that are surrounding that. The very first two, about 10 years ago, Spaceport America and Oklahoma Spaceport were the first two. Oklahoma beat us by a few weeks, getting their application through the process with the FAA. And over the last few years, so many more. And the question in your mind is why is this? Why are all the other states wanting to get in? There's another 9 states that have applications, 9 locations, I should say, that have applications to the FAA. And the reason, of course, is the commercial space industry. The overall space industry itself is growing so fast. It's an exciting time that we live in. And the other states realize that they want to be able to support this economic engine as it goes forward. So each of these spaceports that you see on this map that are outlined in blue all have certain capabilities and unique attributes that are going to allow them to support the industry going forward. And we're going to certainly partner together as we go forward in supporting the space industry. You'll notice that a lot of the ones on the East Coast, like the Cape, they're at Kennedy, and then the Cape Canaveral Spaceport and Wallops Island, they're doing some great things today because they're leveraging of the DoD and the NASA facilities that are there. Some of the inland spaceports are getting ready to come up on old Air Force bases, or like here at Spaceport America, that hopefully some of you will have a chance to come see if you haven't seen it on Friday. Spaceport America is actually the first purpose-built commercial spaceport, but we're leveraging too on some unique capabilities in our partnership with the military at White Sands, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But the thing that excites me is where this industry is going and already the infrastructure around the country that we have to support. So one of the things that we have in our nation, of course, right now, and with George Nail and his team, I'm really proud of the way they're working hard to be able to get access to space for all of our customers that are out there. I met with Michael Romanowski and Dee Reimhold a couple months after I took over, and I indicated there's certain things that we have in our background here at White Sands and Spaceport America that we might be able to help. We've been doing in this little block of DoD airspace that you can see in that yellow in the very southwest corner of the United States. The uniqueness about that airspace is that's controlled by DoD. Everywhere else in the nation, except over the White House, it's controlled by the FAA, and George's team does a great job of working with the ATO and the FAA to be able to get access up in the space environment. But the neat thing that you can see in that little bottom right-hand corner, which shows the outline of that restricted airspace surface to unlimited, is all the air traffic going around. That happens because DoD controls that. Albuquerque Center cleanses all the airspace around us, but inside we have our own control capability. And so we have a small microcosm of unmanned aerial vehicles out of Holloman. We have all the jets out of Holloman. We have all the missile activity. So we're doing things on a daily, weekly basis of integrating rockets and unmanned vehicles and aircraft that are manned aircraft that are flying throughout that restricted airspace. And it becomes a scheduling process. So there's a lot that we have to offer as we go forward just in this little neck of the woods in our country. But that's kind of a unique capability we have. And so what I did when I first took over the spaceport over the holidays about 11 months ago, in December, I got with the staff and I said, what is it that we really want to be? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What do we want to be in supporting our customers? What do we want to be for our nation? What can we do to support our nation as we go forward in the commercial and the civil and the national security space environment? And we looked at kind of some of our key attributes that we have. We looked at the airspace that we reside under, and it was kind of neat. You talk about as your career paths as you go through your career, you don't know what will happen in the future. So 15 years ago, I was a technical director out at the missile range, and the state came and they started looking at where it makes sense to locate. They'd already done a study with NASA and Lockheed and VentureStar, and we knew the right location. But then when they came with our foundational partner, Virgin, and they made the creation of the New Mexico Spaceport Authority Act, and they started some initial investment, we looked at where it made the most sense to locate that spaceport. So we did it out under the restricted airspace of 5111 complex out on the western side that you can see in that little red blob that looks kind of a funny, that's 18,000 acres of state land. We located the Spaceport America under that because we knew it was under the restricted airspace from surface to unlimited. And we knew, I saw back then as a DoD leader, the synergy between a major range test facility base and the commercial space industry going forward. It just made too much sense not to leverage each other's capability. So the spaceport is about another 20 miles to the west of the missile range proper, but it's under that wonderful restricted airspace from surface to unlimited. So working with the team, we said, okay, with all these attributes that we have, the remote location, secure environment, the high altitude, the beautiful weather, what does it make sense for us to do going forward? And so we came up with, kind of three focus areas. They're not, very unique. It's basically what the space industry has to do going forward. And we have the same vision and dream that many spaceports around the nation do, ultimately to be a transportation hub, a commerce, a port. But we have some natural attributes that I think will hopefully get us there to support our nation going forward, maybe quicker in some cases. But what we're focused on today and what we're doing today is actually a lot of suborbital work. When you think about NASA mandate that they have to be on Mars by 2030, and you look at the excitement that the National Space Council just reinvigorated us last Thursday. I was kind of honored to be at that meeting last Thursday. It was really impressive to see where the commercial space, the civil space, and the national defensive space, those three panels that spoke at that meeting gave some very compelling discussion on where this council needs to go to help support our country going forward. They all had certain perspectives on what's important, but they all were very focused on how the nation needed to go. And the nice thing about what Vice President Mike Pence said at that meeting was tasking the council to have a clear strategy going forward as we go to the moon and set up humans on the moon and then going on to Mars. So it's exciting to see that, but it's also exciting to know what we out here at Spaceport America can support in all three of those sectors because some of the capabilities that we have here. And so we're focused on a suborbital, and we're focused right now on a lot of the research that's going to be needed in the life science and the material sciences for our nation going forward. There's a tremendous amount of growth in that area. Whenever, in my experience in the past doing sounding rockets out of White Sands or out at Wallops, you get a certain amount of time in microgravity. We're getting ready with our three providers up there with Virgin. You'll hear more about that after me with Mike Moses. But with Up Aerospace and Exos, having a 3 to 4 minute window of microgravity, and that's a game changer in the industry. My brother's a doctor at New Glenn there at NASA. He's a combustion scientist up there dealing with certain effects of combustion. And he says whenever you have the ability to do an experiment 3 to 4 minutes and get that data almost real time or right after, he said that's going to be a game changer. As you all know, the space station, great capability. You can do some great research up there. Some of the data latency, because of the bandwidth of getting the data back, is a little bit lacking. That'll improve as we go forward in time. But his point is the amount of research that we have to do in a suborbital world, this is going to be a game changer going forward. So with our three partners there, that's exciting for us. Obviously, we're looking forward to working when the timing is right for the other partner that NASA and the Flight Opportunities Program are working with Blue. Those are the 4 vertical ones. And then there's a couple other ones that NASA's working at are kind of with the balloon, the big helium or hydrogen-filled capabilities. And so we're working, as you can see in that one image, with Boeing and their CTV, where they take this capsule and they take it up high, fly over the missile range, drop it. And they're doing that there for a couple reasons. One is it's a great environment to do this demonstration of their parachute and their rigging technologies before they go forward with their final design. But also, White Sands Missile Range is a place that they located for their primary landing site. It's also the place where they located their secondary landing site because the missile range is just so big. So knowing that the future civil astronauts will be coming back into this area is kind of a nice opportunity. So us at the Spaceport, we're partnering with some of the other opportunities that NASA's not only working with, but some of our commercial partners are working with too. As we go forward in time, doing spaceplane technology, single stage to orbit technologies when they come to fruition, returnable booster technologies, those types of technologies are more important to an inland spaceport, more, I guess, pertinent to an inland spaceport and our capabilities going forward. So we're working hard with DARPA and the XS-1 to ensure they have all the right information with Boeing, who got that contract, the Phantom Express, to be sure that the right information is out there at the right time when they make their selection. One of the things that I've noticed here recently is working with some of the leadership and Department of Defense. Right after the National Space Council, I was met with Secretary Wilson's staff and the senior space advisor on as they go forward as a nation. There's certain national defensive security capabilities that will need an inland spaceport. There's a lot of, as you can imagine, great capabilities on our coast, but sometimes there's certain security perspectives that we just really don't want some activities happening or returning that we want to protect a little bit. So having an inland capability is important to our nation going forward. So as we look at, going to support orbit with the right technologies, we've got a great plan to be able to get there. We're excited about that capability. And then ultimately, of course, just to be a transportation hub, going point to point around the globe when the capability there, whether it's spin-offs of the Phantom Express or the Sierra Nevada, one of the capability that they're developing. There's a lot of capabilities that we'll see in our lifetimes to be able to happen, to get to Hong Kong or to be able to get to Calcutta or to be able to get to someplace around the globe or up in a cis-lunar environment in a half hour or a little bit longer. So we're excited about that orbital capability and ultimately becoming a transportation hub as we go forward in time. One of the things, with my background at the missile range and dealing with DoD and sustainment of $13 billion of infrastructures, we had a very clear path on supporting our launch complexes. Of course, very little of it got funded over the last few years because of the tough fiscal environment that we were in. But we knew what we needed to grow and how we needed to get there. So one of the things that I surprised maybe the state legislature here recently was a capital outlay program that says, hey, we've got about 3% of what we're going to need to be as a spaceport to support our nation going forward. And so I've got a capital outlay plan to build a payload integration facility, to do some things with a SCIF environment, to do some other things that are important to our customers. And as we go forward in time, I'd love to get the input of some of the experts out in the audience to help as we design these facilities and get them built over the next couple of years. It's not something that just Dan and the team does internally. A lot of you have some good inputs that we'd like to be able to capture and leverage, and certainly working with some of the DoD, NASA, NOAA, other elements, maybe even get some matching funds going forward as we lay out our master plan to take Spaceport America into the future. So with that, there's a couple examples that I want to show that kind of are exciting to see. And then I'm going to end with the Spaceport America Cup, and then I'll open it up to a few questions. So if you can play this video for me. This was kind of a good example of some of those 3 suborbital providers that we have. Some of you may have seen this. It was about a year, or actually a little longer than a year ago, we launched this. Up Aerospace had an issue with their rocket provider. They're getting ready to start flying, though, again here in November to support some NASA and DoD missions coming up. But this is one that we did for NASA a little over a year ago on checking out the drogue chute coming into a small capsule returning to Earth, how effective that was. And you'll see it as the payload comes out in a second. In a second, you'll see the payload drop out of the forebody of this Up Aerospace launch vehicle. That's the payload experiment dropping back down to Earth. So a lot of you have probably used GoPro cameras. This particular imagery, there's some GoPro cameras, and this actually won the 2016 International Award of capturing it just at the right moment. There's the experiment coming back for NASA. So we expect to be doing with Exos, Up Aerospace, Virgin's flight program that Mike will talk about in just a second, and other partners doing a lot more of the research and experimentation that we'll be needing for our country. So this next slide deals with, we're getting a lot of universities that want to come because we have the airspace and ability to support. So this is one team that we supported in March. So we're going for an altitude, University of Southern California, for about 140,000 feet. They had been there the year before. This is their second attempt, and they're going to come back this fall to try and be the first university to get to the Kármán line. But it's exciting to watch these students go through, and I'll be quiet so you can listen to what they're saying, and then I'll give you an analogy of the Spaceport America Cup.
That's really the only big operational thing. I'll be reading off a countdown from the ignition table. You should all be able to hear it. We're targeting a launch time, or an ignition time of 8:30 a.m. I'm going to make the 30-minute call to the FAA soon, and so we're pretty much go for launch. And I'm really happy we made it here, and I'm so proud of all of you for doing all this work, and I'm really excited to see this thing take off.
So today here at Spaceport America, we're hosting the launch of a rocket from the University of Southern California.
Okay, so we're trying to launch a rocket as high as 180,000 feet.
We got here together, we had a safety briefing, and then we got to work, cooked a bunch of food on the grill, awesome, and then I guess we went to bed pretty early.
So what's going on today is we're flying Fathom 2, which is our if it succeeds, will be our highest performing rocket to date. Last year we came out here with a rocket that was called Fathom. Its intention was to act as an aerodynamics test for a future space shot, so a future flight to space. So it's a subscale version of that future flight. It unfortunately exploded a few seconds into flight due to an issue with our thermal protection system on the inside of the motor. So we're shooting high this time, and if it works, it'll be a perfect demonstration of our aerodynamics for a future space shot attempt.
Hey, so we're here in Mission Control. We are about 20 minutes out from launch. So far, everything looks good, and the clouds are actually clearing up right now, so should be nice blue skies when we launch. Sent the rocket up. We're pretty proud of it.
We're pretty happy. Good job, guys.
So we're still waiting on the avionics to let us know our final apogee, but right now the rocket has come down. We are waiting for avionics to confirm whether it's on the ground or not yet. The packets only come in every 10 minutes.
You know, my 3 years at USC so far, this is the first high-performance vehicle that's really worked. And as far as the vehicle dynamics went, it worked perfectly. It pretty much hit close to our expected apogee, and a little bit of trouble with the parachutes coming down, but it's a fixable problem. I think that everybody on the team felt a real sense of accomplishment. Past alumni are here whose works have helped develop the rocket even further. Really just good feelings today all around. And the next launch, the next big launch will probably go to space.
And the whole purpose of the rocket was to test high aerodynamic loading and high Mach number, make the rocket go really fast, low in the atmosphere, to sort of see if we can handle the conditions a space shuttle rocket is going to see. So from the looks of it, it went pretty fast because it burned all the paint off. This is just the primer that's left over. It scorched the fins pretty bad. The aero loading probably tore off some of the carbon fiber down here. So I guess it worked. It was kind of awesome.
So that was one team. And what we did with Spaceport America Cup is we partnered with Experimental Sand and Rocket Association. They used to do this competition out of Green River. A lot of you have probably been at that competition. We brought them to Spaceport America and it grew from about 40 teams to over 116 teams from around the world. We had 116 teams register, all 6 continents, 12 countries. 91 teams showed up that third week in June. And I tell you, the excitement and the collaboration amongst these universities and these young women and men, our future workforce, was so exciting to see. It was probably one of the best weeks in my professional career of working and just seeing where they're at and some of the innovation that they had. So there are 6 categories that this cup had, as you can see up on the screen. You can see the teams that won first and second. And then, of course, the very first Spaceport America Cup that you can see at the bottom went to University of Michigan. But what an exciting opportunity this is. We're going to continue to do this every year. We certainly invite our industry partners to come back. This first year we had some great industry partners that were out there immersed with these students and helping them, mentoring them, being judges, but also helping them get their projects off. So it's an exciting time. This is one thing, even if that's all we did at Spaceport America and do this, I would consider a great success. Obviously we're going to do so much more out there. But this is exciting times, and with that, I think I've got about 7 minutes left for a few questions if there are any.
Thank you, Dan. Nice round of applause for Dan and so we've got, I just would like to remind the audience to ask questions. We're going to be using our social Q&A tool, so if you can please go to ispcs.socialqa.com. I know you got all your phones out. Go over there. Let's ask some good questions to our audience. So, to our speakers, that is. So why don't we start with a question from the audience. When is the Southern Road going to be complete?
So Pat mentioned that yesterday morning to us. You know, we've had this construction starting about 10 years ago. And about August 19th, we put out a solicitation. We had 3 great companies respond. We just selected September 20th, reviewed all the responders. We've got a great company that's ready to go. We're going before the Board of County Commission next week, I think, to approve our selection. And so the neat thing is I put a clause in this contract that says if you can do it in 6 months versus the 380 days that the projection said, we'll give you a little incentive to get it done. So we got a contract that's going to do it, have it done by May, the end of May next year, which is exciting for us. It's exciting for all those students and their rockets too, that they don't have to go on that gravel road anymore. They'll be able to have a nice paved road by June. So we will have it paved next year at this time. So for the next year's conference, you'll have an easier path out the southern way to Spaceport America. So thanks, whoever in the audience asked that question. I'll be sure to talk with you later. Thanks.
Going back to the students for a moment, sounds like it was a very successful Spaceport America Cup. What other programs are you doing to engage universities? I know from Blue Origin perspective, we're well, relatively speaking, just down the road in West Texas, especially garnering the students in the next generation of workforce, especially in this region, is extraordinarily important. What is Spaceport America doing beyond the Cup to support that?
So there's two perspectives, one at the university level. What I noticed at the Cup, and even prior to that with the USC launch, there's a big interest with some of the universities that have the resources to be able to design, develop a capability to get to the Kármán line. And there's a big competitive spirit with our universities to be the first one to make it there. So we've probably got almost a call a week from various universities around the country. The last one was from University of Ohio that just reached out to us.
It wasn't Ohio State that saw that Michigan won the Cup and wanted to get in there?
It's probably both of them that wanted it. But so what we're going to do is have an unlimited category that kind of goes throughout the year. Some of them will be actually during the Cup. But a lot of that, as you all can imagine, that's a little bit more of a complex scenario to support that. So some of the universities, when they're ready, we're going to give them a venue to be able to demonstrate that capability to the world. And so there's, again, there's probably at least a couple dozen that are looking forward to schedule some time out there to Spaceport. So that's kind of at the university level to expand the Cup to be able to do that type of unlimited support for our universities. At the high school and middle school level, we're working what we call a field trip Zoom, where we have a Spaceport module that's available to all teachers throughout the nation. It's free for New Mexico teachers, but throughout the nation you can sign up for this module and you're able to talk to Dr. Bill Gutman and hear what's going on at some venue at the Spaceport. So we're getting a lot of excitement from classrooms around there, and that's exciting for me. That was the first contract that I signed coming on board, to be able to reach out to the middle school, high school level, get them excited about the STEM fields going up. So those are two kind of areas that we're really pushing beyond the specific America Cup.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you, and good luck in your short-term future endeavors, the long-term future endeavors, which of course we hope include the next generation of space professionals, which you're helping grow up and mature. So thank you very much, Dan. Another round of applause to Dan Hicks.
Thank you very much.